We take a yield test where we have to weigh the pork butt. Do we weigh the pork butts? Why do we weigh pork butts? Give me the reason. We want to develop the weight, find the weight, right? What makes a pork butt a pork butt? What we're doing, we're looking for characteristics. What do you see on here?
Shoulder bone.
Shoulder blade bone. You see from both sides, can it flatten? This is a little shorter, a little bulkier. You see above the shoulder blade the natural seam. Knowing where the shoulder blade is at, is a shoulder cut a very active muscle. Would that be now suitable for dry cooking? No. So we gotta find an alternative. We do. We're going to take this top layer off. We follow this natural seam using a knife, cutting all the way across. And let this blade part behind you support your knife action. You make about 3-4 cuts against the blade bone. And once the blade bone ends, you make a square cut. You should have now separation. You can go a little farther, remove this loose fat, and trim this lip or tail off. Gets cubed afterwards in a separate pile. And do a small trim, remove the excess fat. A little fat is acceptable because we need fat for flavorings. When you make a cube, what's most important, you have to cut across the grain. So we have to identify the grain direction. Ideally, you flip them upside down. Use your hand, use a pressure point. Grain in my case runs lengthwise. Knowing this, you flip the piece of meat upside down. To make a cube, you have to cut crossways. What's very important is that you have to make an even slice. We're aiming for a 1-inch cube. Therefore, what you first should do, you measure the width. In a 4-back stroke, the knife should execute a cut with full support. You made one slice, you measure the next slice in the width. In a 4-back motion, the cut gets executed. And what you do is slice the entire piece of meat in 1-inch even slices. You measure first. In a 4-back motion, you have a 1-inch strip. So you're cutting all the slices now in the 1-inch strip by using a measurement evenly on both sides. There's a score first, and there's the execution in a forward and back motion. The next step now, you're making cross cuts. The last slice, you take one strip at a time, turn it sideways, and predetermined length could be a thumb width, equals 1 inch in length. You execute your cut, you measure the second one, execute the cut. Now, in case if it's too long, you cut them crossways first and then split them again afterwards in the width. There's many ways it could be done to accommodate a cube. Grab a handful of cubes. And you're comparing a ratio between the cubes. So we have 8 cubes. You're too small, 6 are pretty close. You have achieved a pretty much good high score on your yield. They should be the same length, they should be the same height, they should be the same width. Therefore, they're going to cook even if they're uneven, they be either under or overcooking.
Now, what's our focus? What's our task? We're going to make we're going to make nice thin cutlets. Cutlets for what? Sauté, for scallopine, exactly. What we're going to use today is this large piece. This is a veal top round, all right? Large piece veal top round. Of the leg of veal cuts, this and the tenderloin that are in there are going to be the most tender, okay? That little piece of tenderloin, the tenderloin butt, is quite tender, but it's kind of an odd shape, where this is a nice, solid, even shape, all right? So we're going to make some large cutlets, and then I'm going to divide it in half, and I'll make some smaller cutlets, depending on what kind of dish we're going to create. First things first, we would trim it up a bit. Removing some of the silver skin tissue off the top. Some membrane, just lightly trim it. It's really quite tender already. I'll flip it over. On the underside, we can see there's some more silver skin, connective tissue, a little bit of fat. All of that needs to come off as well. There's also a small blood vessel that runs through the top round, right there. Pull that away. Why do we pull off all the silver skin now?
Make it easier. You know, try to do when it's cut in little pieces.
Right. What's going to happen if we cook it?
It'll shrink.
It's going to shrink. It's going to misshapen your cutlets. They'll bend, they'll bow. So, all trimmed. You can see the yield on a veal top round is extremely good. Very little trim, and even this could be ground into a force meat if you had to. Now, cutting the cutlet. Basically, the technique is placing your palm over the surface that you're going to cut, and then bringing your knife down to it. So it's kind of like this. So you're getting relatively close to your hand. Setting the knife, and then very carefully drawing the knife underneath your hand. Let me pull this out of the way so you can see. Set the palm, draw the knife through, nice and smooth. There's your nice cutlet. If you have any odd shaped pieces coming off, you just clip those. And now you can see the size of the next cutlet's going to be huge, right? For a larger Wiener Schnitzel, something like that, this is going to work very nicely. Place the palm, drag the knife down through. You could use a larger knife, such as a slicer. And there's a very big, nice veal cutlet. Now I could also section this and turn it into smaller cutlets by cutting through. There is a piece in here that could be taken off. You can see the natural seam there. Or we could just cut down through the hole. The seam isn't such a big seam that you can't make it invisible. I would just cut it straight through like this, making two smaller pieces to cut from. Then again, turn it sideways, cut towards my hand. Ready? Lift your palm once in a while to see if the knife is in the right spot. Right down through. Right? See that motion? Always cutting towards my palm. I'm cutting across the grain. You can see the obvious grain, right? And I'm also cutting on a bias. Why do I cut on the bias?
Larger pieces than you would otherwise.
Right? Cutting larger pieces. Why across the grain?
Tender.
To ensure tenderness. One of the things we're going to do to ensure even cooking is to do what? Pound them out. Right. Lay the plastic wrap over top. And take your mallet. That's a mallet. And tamp down the cutlets. Usually I do this on a wooden cutting board so it absorbs some of the sound. If your prep person was out late last night, you can give it a couple extra ones. All right, see how that tamps it down, makes it nice and even, flat, smooth. There's a very nice cutlet. I tamp them down lightly. I don't want to see light through them. Right, if I pull this up, I can see there's no light. All right, any questions on cutlets? The basic thing is that hand motion, that setting of the palm. Looking at the piece of meat, deciding, there's my cutlet. I can see that first cutlet, right? I can imagine it. And then setting the palm, cutting down through, nice and smooth. And there's your cut. Sometimes you'll end up with a little bit of rag that comes off the end. You just want to clip that down. Save that for your grind. Okay?